Mohammad Mossaddegh's life was a tapestry woven with threads of privilege, intellect, and an indomitable spirit that sought to challenge imperial dominance over his nation. Born in 1882 into a prominent family in Iran's Khorasan province, Mossaddegh's early years were shaped by his lineage, a family entrusted with the responsibility of collecting taxes for the region. This position afforded young Mohammad exposure to the corridors of power and access to an education that was beyond the reach of most Iranians of his time. Mossaddegh's intellectual journey began in Iran but soon led him to the prestigious institutions of Europe. He first studied in Paris, immersing himself in the liberal philosophies and political theories of the West, and later pursued a PhD in law from Switzerland. This European sojourn not only honed his legal acumen but also deepened his understanding of governance and justice. Upon his return to Iran, Mosaddegh took up a teaching position at the Tehran School of Political Science, shaping the minds of future Iranian leaders and cementing his reputation as a scholar and reformist. Mossaddegh's political career began amidst the fervor of the Iranian constitutional revolution. At the age of 24, he was elected to the Persian parliament from Isfahan. However, his youthful enthusiasm was met with a constitutional barrier. He was not yet 30, the minimum age to serve in parliament. This setback did not deter him. Instead, it became a prelude to his lifelong struggle against systemic injustice. In 1919, Mossadegh emerged as a vocal critic of the Anglo-Persian Treaty, a pact that heavily favored British interests and undermined Iran's sovereignty. His opposition to the treaty showcased his unyielding commitment to national independence. When political pressures mounted, Mossadegh briefly relocated to Switzerland, but his reputation as a principled leader led to his recall. The new Iranian prime minister invited him to serve as the Minister of Justice, a role he accepted with vigor. Over the years, Mossadegh held various key positions, including Minister of Finance and Foreign Affairs. His tenure was marked by efforts to reform and stabilize Iran's governance. However, the political upheaval of 1925, which saw the Qajar dynasty deposed and Reza Khan ascending as the Shah under the new Pahlavi dynasty, disillusioned him. The dissolution of the Iranian constitution and the restoration of monarchy led Mossadegh to retreat from politics, signaling his frustration with the autocratic turn of events. The tides of history shifted once again in 1941 when Reza Shah was forced to abdicate in favor of his son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, under British pressure. This development underscored the pervasive influence of foreign powers in Iran's internal affairs. Mossadegh, now reinvigorated, re-entered the political arena. He led a group dedicated to curtailing foreign control over Iran, particularly targeting the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, AIOC, a symbol of British exploitation of Iranian resources. By 1947, Mossaddegh's reformist zeal faced a setback when an electoral reform bill he proposed failed in the MI6, the Iranian parliament. Frustrated, he announced his retirement. However, his retirement was short-lived. On April 28, 1951, the Majlis elected Mossadegh as prime minister by an overwhelming vote of 79 to 12, a decision confirmed by the Shah. In his new role, Mossadegh initiated sweeping social reforms, including unemployment compensation, workers' benefits, and the abolition of forced labor for peasants. On May 1, 1951, Mossadegh nationalized the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, canceling its oil concession and expropriating its assets. This bold move was driven by a vision of reclaiming Iran's resources for its people. But it drew the ire of Britain. Sanctions were imposed on Iran, plunging the nation into economic difficulties. Britain, weakened by World War II, sought U.S. assistance to resolve the crisis. In 1953, the United States and Britain orchestrated a covert operation to remove Mossadegh from power. Dubbed Operation Ajax, the plot involved a sophisticated propaganda campaign, bribery, and the mobilization of anti-Mossadegh forces. Kermit Roosevelt Jr., a CIA operative and grandson of U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt, played a pivotal role in executing the coup. Massive protests, both for and against Mosaddegh, were staged, creating chaos in Tehran. Ultimately, pro-Shah military units stormed Mossadegh's residence. Overwhelmed, Mosaddegh went into hiding but eventually surrendered. For those who take interest in geopolitics, you might find striking resemblance in the way Mosaddegh was ousted with the recent ouster of Sheikh Hasina, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, who was similarly ousted by the USA last year. We have done a video on the similarities between the ousters of Mosaddegh and Sheikh Hasina. You might want to check it out after this video. Now coming back to the video. Mosaddegh was arrested and tried, receiving a sentence of 3 years in solitary confinement followed by house arrest at his estate in Ahmedabad. He remained under house arrest until his death on March 5, 1967. Denied a public funeral, Mosaddegh was buried in his living room, as the establishment feared that a public funeral would rile up public sentiment against the establishment. Mossadegh's life is a poignant reminder of the fragility of democracy in the face of imperial interests. His struggle against foreign domination and his commitment to the welfare of his people resonate in the annals of history. The parallels between Mossadegh's ouster and modern instances of foreign interference in sovereign nations highlight a recurring irony. Those who claim to champion democracy often undermine it for profit and power. In Mossadegh's story lies a lesson for all, a call to safeguard the principles of justice, sovereignty, and the enduring quest for freedom.